I keep getting thrown back on the metaphor that David Attenborough brought up about 100 red ants and 100 black ants being put into a jar. And for anybody who hasn't heard this, David Attenborough spoke about this, that what happens if you put 100 black ants and 100 red ants into a jar and then observe it? Nothing happens. But if somebody violently shakes up the jar, then the ants start killing one another. My position is, and I don't know why it's almost unmentionable, but my position is this is probably, this was done on purpose. And it was done on purpose, probably the agenda, why shake up the jar? It seems to me that the agenda was to try to detonate a broader regional war and escalate it to a world war.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
I invested £25,000. Today, that investment is worth £5 million.
Say hello to our hero, the Hydrogen Energy Release Optimizer. Limitless power, zero emissions.
Hi everybody, I am joined once again by Tom Luongo and Alex Krainer. Alexander Mercouris still isn't able to be with us because he has so much on. But fingers crossed, this video will be going out on the Duran network. And before we go any further, I'm going to start by you, Tom. If you can say where people can find your work, and then I'll ask you, Alex, where people can find your work, and then we shall begin.
Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Guys, I hope you're well. It's been a couple weeks since we talked. I'm Tom Luongo. You can follow my work over at tomluongo.me, at goldgoatsandguns.com. You can follow me on Twitter, where I promise the worst version of me will show up every day without fail, to at least be entertaining. And TFL1728 is the username there. And then on top of everything else, where most things happen, are the Patreon at patreon.com/goldgoatsandguns, where you can sign up for the newsletter and or the market reports and the private blog posts. So there you go. Thank you.
Now the links to that in the description below. And you do twice weekly market reports, and I've learned so much in terms of political and economic analysis, and also your technical analysis.
Yeah, I post like one of those a month for public consumption, about a month or two out of phase, so that people have an out. They're on my YouTube channel, and you can find them. Just search for me on YouTube, you'll find it. And so you can get an idea of what they're like. So, and
you can also find Tom on Odyssey, by the way. And I reposted your latest market report on my channel. And you can find me on Odyssey and on 3Speak. We'll come to that in a second. Alex, what about you? Where can people find you, Alex?
Well, I'm right here in Monaco. They can find me on Twitter or on X. My handle is @nakedhedgy, one word. And they can also find my work on Substack, Alex Krainer's Trend Compass. And then there's my blog, The Naked Hedgie, and there's my professional website, iSystem Trend Following, but it's easy enough to find from either Twitter or Substack. So that's that.
And you offer a professional paid service?
Sorry, if I do what?
You offer like a professional paid service or something on economic analysis?
Oh yes, to traders and investors. That's a daily CTA newsletter, which is CTA stands for Commodities Trading Advisor. I cover about 200 different financial and commodities markets and generate, let's say, typical systematic trend following signals for trading of, crude oil, gold, silver, copper, NASDAQ, S&P 500, and all of those types of things.
Okay, great. And I shall have the links for both of you in the description below. And also I'm going to have the links for the Duran as well, because fingers crossed this video will go out on the Duran network, even though Alexander Mercouris can't make this video today. But they offer the duran.locals.com, and I know Alexander does special videos on that just for the members. And you can find the Duran on Odyssey and YouTube and also Twitter. And you can follow me on bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak, on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, and also my official Telegram announcements channel. And all the links in the description below. right, Tom. All right, Alex. There's really only one thing to talk about, I think.
Unfortunately.
To start with, right? Which is the conflict in the Middle East.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with the gender studies.
Alex, we didn't talk about
Sorry,
This is what I love about you, Alex. You're always so serious.
if that's a big pressing issue.
I mean, I always thought that we were just gonna gender studies or I don't even have a good follow-up joke for that one. Sorry, guys. It's still a little too early over here. The sun still hasn't quite risen here in overcast North Florida this morning.
Well, look, let me start then, because I posted a video yesterday where I was advocating for a third position, because to me but by the way, people don't know, I have Jews in my family, I have Christians in my family, I have Shias in my family, I have Sunnis in my family, I have human beings in my family, which makes me have the same family as you guys, right? We all have human beings in our family. And in that video, I was arguing for this third position that no one's really talking about. No one's really talking about, which is peace. Something nobody in the West is talking about, which is we just need to have peace. Instead, what we have is this group saying, let's kill the other group, and this group saying, let's kill this group.
Yep. It clearly, and peace is the only real option. Well, it's the only rational, or I even say irrational or emotional. That's the right option, man. But the problem is that we're at a point where some war is justified, but it's never moral. And I hate to say it that way, because fundamentally, I believe all war. I never have a good justification for war from an outsider's perspective, but this isn't my war, right? And so, like I just reposted a Scott Horton tweet going back to a Pat Buchanan interview about, Israeli bombing of Gaza in 2009. And he said, and Pat, in his infinite wisdom then said, by the way, the people that they bombed today are going to grow up and they're going to join Hamas. And here we are 14 years later, and that's what we've got. So the violence is endemic and the anger is endemic on both sides, and you can understand the violence and you can understand the impulse to violence because it's there. It's blood speaks, right? But at the same time, you don't have to condone it and you don't have to justify it. And what was, even if, and the initial reports were always of what Hamas did were way over the top. They were, as always, they were amplified for particular agenda reasons, and we can talk about that. And that's really where I'd rather structure this talk today, about what this means from a coldly dispassionate, who's going to advance whose agenda based on these events, because that's what's clearly in process. So
yeah, and feel free to take it there. That's what you're great at.
Well, yeah, but we just want to get it out of the way first, where our positions are.
Sure.
I left up on my Twitter feed for 2 years, my article as a eulogy to Justin Raimondo, editor at antiwar.com, on the importance of being anti-war. And I fundamentally believe that is the only and right position. That is, of course, never the popular position after an event like this. Ask me how I know. I was an anti-war libertarian in the United States in the Deep South after 9/11. Trying to build a libertarian party in the fall of 2001, and was successful at that point up until that moment. And at that moment, we were shut out of every conservative leaning organization in the area. I was thrown out of gun shops that I spent thousands of dollars in.
Wow.
Okay? Because that's how extreme the response was. So this, to me, watching Ben Shapiro lose his fucking mind today, no surprise. No surprise at all. But as when people begin to calm down, they're going to realize that their initial reactions were exactly that, overreactions.
Yeah.
And hopefully with talks like this and with others and what we do to keep the commentary back down to who's benefiting from this? Who's benefiting from the chaos? Who's benefiting from the blood and the murder and everything else? That's when your real anger should come to bear, and why you'll always come back to the position, you know what? Fuck these people. They're just war profiteers.
Yeah.
And they're coldly calculated psychopaths, and doesn't matter. And you know, and they manipulate people's passions, both Jews and Palestinians, in order to get what they want. And so that's where this goes. And that's the part that, you know, hopefully one of these days we'll finally break through that, the fog of that they, you know, the fog of the propaganda, to stop the worst of what's going to happen, that we've always seen happen in the past. After 9/11, the U.S. went to war for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. That's what happened. So hopefully this time the U.S. doesn't go to war this time, because we're smart enough to have seen this story and go, you know what? Didn't like the story the first time, and I'm not going to watch the sequel.
Okay. Alex?
I keep getting thrown back on the metaphor that David Attenborough brought up about 100 red ants and 100 black ants being put into a jar. And for anybody who hasn't heard this, David Attenborough spoke about this, that what happens if you put 100 black ants and 100 red ants into a jar and then observe it? Nothing happens. But if somebody violently shakes up the jar, then the ants start killing one another. And I was saying this, you know, with relation to what happened to the peoples of the former Yugoslavia in 1990s, what happened to Ukraine and many, many other places in the world. And sadly now, this is, you know, entirely applies to what we're observing in Israel and in Palestine. And my position is, and I don't know why it's almost unmentionable, but my position is this is probably, this was done on purpose. And it was done on purpose, probably the agenda, you know, why shake up the jar? It seems to me that the agenda was to try to detonate a broader regional war and escalate it to a world war. You know, France, Holland, the United States, Great Britain immediately moved their military assets into the region, as though Israel might need help, you know, dealing with Palestinians in Gaza.